All right, another day and another severe thunderstorm outbreak somewhere across the United States. This time across from portions of Missouri eastward to Kentucky and Tennessee today. This comes after we had an outbreak yesterday across the Great Plains, but I was too busy to record a video yesterday in the past few days. But before we get into it, let me show you the storm reports from yesterday. All these red dots are tornado reports yesterday, not officially confirmed yet. These are all preliminary, so that number could go up or down. But right now, we're talking 25 tornado reports yesterday, from Texas upwards to the borders of Kansas and Oklahoma, eastward to the borders of Missouri and Arkansas. And yeah, this has been a very busy year for tornadoes. Looking at the tornado count for so far this year through May 25th, some of these could still be preliminary. But the red line is the red line is 2024 and the black line is the average line. And so right now we're talking the second most tornadoes on record here. So as of May 25th, only behind the infamous year of 2011, which is the green line up there. So huge amount of tornadoes so far this year, and it's just going to continue today. So basically now we're looking at the HRRR model, showing you guys the upper levels, what's causing this today. This is looking at the jet stream 500 millibar level. We have a trough digging in across the middle of the country. That's bringing an enhanced jet stream across portions of the Mississippi into the Ohio Valley today and Tennessee Valley in this area here. That's going to bring the wind shear required to cause the severe thunderstorms, and the surface low will be the lifting mechanism. This is looking at the low-level jet. Notice how as we get into tonight, we have an enhanced low-level jet over this area. Across the Tennessee Valley, that'll be enhancing more of that shear that'll be required to generate those thunderstorms. Now, going into the future simulated radar from the HRRR model, as of right now, we have clusters of storms across portions of eastern Missouri and southern Missouri into portions of Illinois. This first cluster will push off to the east this afternoon. Could still carry some damaging wind out of it as it pushes through Indiana, portions of western southern Ohio. But especially along that southern end of it, across portions of Kentucky, like the model is showing here, some pretty strong reflectivity still there, which indicates that we could still be talking some hail reports out of this cluster this afternoon in portions of Kentucky, and also some damaging wind. But also this afternoon, we have to look back to the west for some redevelopment. This will be the main show for later this afternoon and into this evening and tonight, as these storms start to develop across portions of Missouri and into southern Illinois this afternoon. It'll be going into an environment very favorable for tornadoes. And so just looking at a model sounding here for southern Illinois this evening, just looking at the environment we got. We have an environment showing some veering of the wind in the low levels. We got some helicity there over 100 to 200, so could get a couple tornadoes out of that as these storms remain discrete. We have updraft potential with these storms here across southern Illinois, eastern Missouri. But especially as we go into closer to nightfall tonight and this evening, we could have the model is showing rapid thunderstorm development all across from eastern Missouri and southern Missouri eastward towards southern Illinois, southern Indiana, northern Kentucky. And this is showing rather robust, even semi-discrete supercells possible at first. This is when the tornado threat will be the highest across this area here. So anywhere across this area, we could be talking about a pretty strong tornado threat this evening, as we get this multiple semi-discrete supercells start to develop. And look at a model sounding for that area around the far southern Illinois, Indiana, Kentucky region. We have an environment that has strong wind shear and some low veering in the low levels. We got helicity values over 200, low level shear near 30 knots. So we have an environment favorable for tornadoes in this whole area here. And as we go into a few hours later, the storm should start to congeal quickly into a pretty robust squall line across portions of Kentucky. And this will start to move to the south and east. And ahead of this squall line, we still have an environment favorable for some tornadoes with this. We still have some strong wind shear, even some curvature in the photograph. Helicity values near 400 and it's low level shear near 40 knots there across western portions of Tennessee. So even though the fact that it's a linear setup to the storms, that'll keep the threat for strong tornadoes down. But the huge amount of helicity in this area indicates that we could still be talking a lot of QLCS tornadoes or a lot of low-end embedded vortices within the squall line. As it pushes to the south and east across portions of Kentucky and Tennessee, we could still be talking about a tornado threat along the squall line. And then we got to look for some back building of thunderstorms across portions of Arkansas. The environment over Arkansas is still favorable for tornadoes. Also, got some high helicity values there too. So any storms that develop over Arkansas later tonight, maybe even into the overnight hours tonight, could carry a tornado potential there as well. Something to keep an eye on. And then as we go into the overnight hours all the way through tomorrow morning, the storms start to fade out as we get into tomorrow morning on May 27th, by the time they reach portions of Alabama and northern Georgia. Now, just showing you some of the parameters for this, what we got going on. I want to show you the helicity values today. This is how much updraft rotation potential we got going on. So as we get into this afternoon, we have high helicity values across portions of Kentucky. We're talking in the 0 to 3 kilometer range above ground level, values reaching over 400. So we have a lot of updraft rotation potential here across Kentucky and the lower Ohio Valley in general. And then going into the overnight hours tonight, we get a huge flare up across portions of Tennessee. That's why I think along that squall line, as it pushes to the south, we could still be talking about quite a bit of rotation and embedded vortices and embedded tornadoes within that squall line as it pushes to the south and east. And then going into tomorrow morning, those values start to go down a bit as that squall line pushes into northern Alabama and Georgia. Now I want to show you the significant tornado parameter where we have the best environment to see tornadoes today. This is on a scale of 0 to 10. As we go into this afternoon and evening, we have very high values across portions of eastern Missouri, southern Illinois, and into western Kentucky. That's where we could get a couple strong tornadoes possible today as those storms start to develop and remain discrete at first. Those discrete supercells is what we have to watch out for the most. And then going into tonight, even going into the overnight hours, we have a lot of high values here, basically where those storms will be across eastern Arkansas into western Tennessee and southern Kentucky there. We could get some embedded tornadoes along that squall line as it pushes to the south across the Tennessee Valley, and then those values start to decrease pretty significantly into tomorrow morning. But still, honestly, there's still high enough values where we might still get an isolated tornado tomorrow morning across northern Alabama and northern Georgia before that squall line completely fades out. And then looking at the helicity tracks, where we have the strongest rotation tracks with the storms today. So basically anywhere from eastern Missouri into much of Kentucky, southern Illinois, far southern Indiana. That's where we have the most rotation tracks today, indicating that's where we have the highest potential for seeing tornadoes today across that area there. But even across portions of Tennessee and, like I said, far northern Georgia and Alabama, still a few decent rotation tracks in there. That's why I think we could still be talking about an isolated tornado for that region there. The biggest tornado potential will be to the north, like I said, from Missouri to Kentucky. But even to the south, places like Tennessee, far northern Alabama, far northern Georgia, could still see the potential for an isolated tornado. But other than that, this whole area should see some pretty strong damaging winds out of that squall line. I think that'll be a main threat too with this. We could be talking about wind gusts easily over 70 miles per hour with some of these storms along that squall line tonight. Now, I also want to show you the rainfall amounts because this area has been getting a lot of rain over the past few weeks and flooding can easily become a problem. As we go through tomorrow morning, we have huge rainfall amounts possible across Kentucky and also far eastern Missouri into southern Illinois and southern Indiana. We're talking rainfall amounts easily over 2 inches, but in some of those stronger storms there in Kentucky, we could be talking about values over 4 to 6 inches possible of rain. So I'm also very concerned about flash flooding today, especially across, like I said, western, southern Kentucky there, places like Paducah, Evansville, Indiana, places to keep an eye on that could get some pretty significant flash flooding today. And even getting values up over 1 inch possible across portions of Tennessee. Could still get some localized flooding in that area too. And with that being said, that's all I got for today. I hope everyone stays safe out there with all these storms today and tonight. Have a good one, guys, and see you next time.